And he looked, he was pretty scary. He was a big man. And, nobody really seen that coming. And you can't blame people because, he made his way in as an earner. He made a lot of money. But the FBI should have never done that. But they get away with whatever they get away with.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just ain't real life street stars. You know what time it is.
Real life street stars. Hold on. We right back in this thing, just like that. Just like that. 100K views. Angelo, first and foremost, before we speak on it, did you know that you was going to run the 100K views? Did you know what that even meant? Did you think your story had that enough weight for in one day for 100,000 people to watch it and be interested in what you had to say?
No, I did not. But I got to tell you that Jaguar said that I would when she asked me to go on the couch 2 weeks ago. She's like, I'm telling you, just go on, right now, and you won't regret it. And she was 100% right. And I felt obligated to come back in because the outpour from so many people was so overwhelming that they have so many nice things to say about Jaguar. And, the 6% trollers, that's okay. I can live with that. But 94 out of 100 people are liking it, and 100,000 people are viewing it. So obviously you guys are doing something right too.
There you go, man. A lot of people have wanted to thank you for your handling of Jag, protection of Jag, managing of Jag, because some people feel like that's all she needed was someone in her corner that, had her best interests at heart and to push that forward. So to be able to put a face to a design, to a job, thank you, first and foremost, for being behind that. Now, you mentioned the 6% trollers. So therefore, there were some people that had negative things to say about you coming to the light. What do you have to say to those trollers and also to the people that may have called your phone to wonder, why is Angelo speaking all of a sudden? What would you have to say to them, if you don't mind?
To the trollers, I have no time for you because there's 20 times as many good people as you trollers. And the negativity is always going to come out. But when I tell you, if you walk with Jaguar through the airport, and when you get in an Uber with her and the Uber driver knows her and they want to take pictures with her, they actually love her. They feel like she's part of their life, and they all know that she's telling the truth. And that's where it's at.
There you go. I would like to provide a little bit of authenticity to your story because I think we kind of stayed surface level last time that we spoke, but I want to give a little more history. And with that being said, let's start with just your nationality. So with some people, in regards to my immigrants that come to America back in the 20s, the 30s, they built a life here. They chose the East Coast. They start moving towards Philly. Of course, that's where the Constitution was written and things of that nature. It's the heartland of America. The immigrants that were from Italy, from Sicily, the Sicilians, the Italians. You have your first generation that moved here. Mm-hmm. Then you had the young kids that were born here that are technically considered American Italian. Italian American. Where do you land in that regard?
My grandfather was a real old time, like they call them, like grease balls. But being 100% Sicilian is not different than the other Italians. It's just that we're maybe a little darker, and but our ancestors that came over, they were really hard workers. Like most of them gravitated to the construction business because of the cement work and building homes. They just were really good at it. And I worked for three guys one time that didn't even speak English. And all they were pointing was the cement, the wood, or the bricks. And I knew that they wanted them. And that was it. You know what I mean? And it was hard work. Believe me when I tell you, for $60 a day, they were killing me. But my father found me more jobs than I needed.
So what does it mean when someone is from the old country and they're from there and they move to America versus someone born in America? Is there any less respect that someone gets if they're born here in America?
No, I don't think so. I mean, everybody realizes that we all come over from somewhere else. That's what the United States was built. I mean, you know, but Italian American immigrants were very hard workers, you know, and we earned our right in this world. And I'm proud of all my ancestors, and I'm very proud of my heritage. I wouldn't want to be anything else but Italian American.
Okay. So with that being said, what I like to do is, again, we're going to provide a little authenticity to your story, Ange, as far as, you know, your upbringing and things of that nature. And I want to speak on, because a lot of guys, I think, you know, we read the comments too. We see that people were saying, hey, you guys were kind of jumping in there, you know, talking mafia movies and mob stories. So let's kind of let's go a little more specific. Philadelphia, especially in South Philly, that was a mecca for the Italian mob as they were coming up, to where there was a hierarchy. There was a system that was in place that came on. And well, I guess you could consider The Godfather, in which, you know, where my knowledge comes in, was taken out. The original Angelo, the original. When I say the original Angelo,
Angelo Bruno, probably.
Yeah, Angelo Bruno. As you're around, because you're elder. I mean, you're a little older. What is your knowledge of his story in life? In regards, was he in your mix?
Well, he actually was friends with my grandfather, but I worked one block from where he lived on 10th and Jackson. He lived on 10th and Snyder. And he looked like a very docile old man. He didn't dress fancy, but he was as powerful as you could imagine. I mean, his ties to New York and the money he made. But they did it in such a way where they weren't on TV and they weren't going out clubbing. And, you know, most of them were home 8 o'clock at night with their families. And naturally, when he got killed in 1980, I was now, you know, 18 and on my way to Atlantic City. But, you know, that was the beginning, I think, of the detriment of the Philly mob, because they wound up being at war 4 or 5 years and bodies everywhere every week, you know.
Yeah, for those who are Philadelphia natives or just even around the surrounding areas, they know of the Philly War that took place. And do you feel, again, you being 18, that it started in that moment of his assassination?
For me, it started earlier because, you know, I grew up across the street from a big social club. And in our neighborhood, there was a man revered as the nicest man you could be. And his name, I won't mention, but we knew, you know, what was going on. But this guy was the nicest guy you could ever imagine. He did everything for everybody in the neighborhood. And he just was a great man, you know, but it's hard to say because a lot of people like Angelo Bruno, but they understand why it happened, unfortunately.
Again, he's considered what you know, for those who, I guess, watch movies, like technically Godfather, his reign was for decades.
Yeah.
Who came in under him right after his assassination?
He immediately got replaced by a guy named Phil Testa. And then Phil Testa, you know, he was in March of 1981. He was killed. Angelo was killed in March 1980.
80.
And then that's when the Philly mob was like, up for grabs. And then the next people came in, But immediately Phil Testa, followed Angelo Bruno.
When I say names like Nick the Crow, Tony Bananas, Joey Marlino, are these guys guys in high power at the time? And are you in Atlantic City at the time when Philly is seeing these guys come in?
Yeah, I was in Atlantic City,
Okay.
The guys you mentioned, who was it again? I'm sorry.
I had Nick the Crow, Tony Bananas. Again, you might not know these nicknames.
Yeah, no, I know them all. Trust
Okay,
me.
yeah, Joey Molino.
Well,
There's a few other guys.
yeah, that's enough with names, but Nicky the Crow was a rat.
Oh,
And, he actually broke the mold and took down the whole Philly mob.
yeah.
Tony Bananas, he was an active participant. And he got, he was able to retire in a nice place in Florida. So he got lucky, I would say, because he probably would have been dead. But, and Joey is, he's a great guy. He has his podcast every day.
Right.
And he doesn't lie when he tells stories about his mother's card game. Yeah, there were 10 ladies sitting around a table, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes. And my mother had a poker game the same way. So when Joey tells a story, I feel like it's so true because I remember my mother's girlfriends, on a Friday night, sitting around playing poker, all 10 of them. And I was getting dressed to go clubbing. And I'm like, don't forget to talk about me when I walk out now. And as soon as I walked out, I know they were talking about me.
Oh, man.
But it's just, it's the way, like, we were brought up. And if you watch his podcast, you'll see how real him and Snuff are. They're really, like, great guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in South Philly, like, we love all our guys. They, like I told you before, they protect us. We don't have to lock our doors. We don't have to lock our car doors. And we support them.
So can I ask, because of this Philly war, the feds start looking in on things. They start, informants start coming about. You have guys like Ralph Natale, who of course ended up working with the federal government to help. Just to help, hey, let me not get time myself. Let me, what do you guys want? The word cooperate, let's just say, comes about. And I haven't got to Ron yet. Ron Pavelli. Yes, I haven't got to him yet. But for Ralph, to where you see cooperation, is it a situation where prison time was feared?
Ralph was the first boss to ever cooperate. So again, as far as I'm concerned, he's a rat. I mean, I don't have time to talk about Ralph Natal because, he befriended Joey when they were away. And then he kind of rode Joey's coattail because I would imagine Joey might not have wanted to be boss. So Ralph became the boss. But in the end, he's known as the first mob boss to ever cooperate. So that's sad. He's a rat.
So can you explain why the saying is called a rat? Like why the rat?
My thing is, if you can't do the time when the time comes, then be a waiter, drive a cab, or work construction. Don't get involved in something and then when the heat's on, you're going to give up all your best friends in life. I'm sorry, but the bottom line is if you can't do the time, don't get involved.
So I mean, like really the word rat, like why not a dog? Why not a roach? Why is it a rat? Is there the definition why they came with the word rat?
I don't know, you know what I mean? And I guess there is no real answer for it. That's just what they call them. You know, tattletales. What do you want to call them? I mean, they cooperate. They're rats.
Such a hard word.
It is.
So let's move on to Big Ron Pravetti. So when I look at the story of the Philly mob, of what the family is, he was technically invited into the family and was working with the feds for years, to where, again, I think he spoke on his own that he wore a wire for 3 years, and he was surprised that he was let in on into so many rooms, and people spoke so freely without saying, let's check guys for wires.
Yeah.
What is that? Is it just because he was big? Was it his race? Was it like, what do you think could make a man not let his guard down around someone like Big Ron?
The FBI is actually to blame, but, you know, because they gave him, you know, $8,000 a month, and because he was a good earner with sports and everything else, and, you know, he also was a guy that was in South Jersey, you know, so that helped out everybody. That him being big might have been easier, you know, to hide a wire, you know, but for the most part, you know, like I said, there was no way to tell, because he was an ex-cop, and he looked, you know, he was pretty scary, was a big man, and, you know, nobody really seen that coming, and you can't blame people, because, you know, he made his way in as an earner. He made a lot of money, but the FBI should have never done that, but they get away with whatever they get away with.
Yeah, they get away with murder if they have to.
He made a lot of money. Yeah.
He made, to get $8,000 to $9,000 a month to be an informant or a rat, or not even a rat yet, but you're just an informant,
right?
Is is lucrative. I think he's probably the highest paid person in FBI history.
I think you might be right.
Yeah. In a situation where the guys go down, the bosses go down, you got a guy like Nick the Crow who does go in witness protection, but a guy like Big Ron who says, I'm going to just stay in Philly. You know, I'm a big man. If it comes, it comes.
He ain't staying in Philly. He stays in Jersey.
You know, he said, staying in Jersey.
Right.
Right. Hey, whatever's best for him. I guess whatever's best for him.
It's better for him to be somewhere further, but he is not the smartest person in the world. So he could be anywhere around Pravetti. He's psychotic.
There you go. Let me ask you, as far as even the RICO didn't come through until the mafia, the mob was involved. RICO wasn't something that existed where it was to protect the boss. The boss touches nothing.
Right.
And then now the government, J. Edgar Hoover and things of that nature, they start creating the RICO case to where they could tie someone as far as a criminal organization. What are your thoughts on them creating something such as the RICO, where even now we see like a young thug who's going through a RICO case now, to where it's so loose now that you could be able to bring a whole organization down just from someone saying, yes, I worked for him, he gave me that. Well,
Giuliani was the one that got that passed. And it's a pretty bad thing, because you really can't fight it once you're involved. I mean, one person can't conspire by himself, but once a second person and a third person get involved, now it's, you know, the RICO, and I believe it's an automatic 10 years, but most likely if you get caught in a RICO, you're probably going to do 20 years. You know, it's pretty messed up that they designed it specifically. I believe they designed it to take down the mafia in New York.
Right.
But it became a countrywide thing in RICO, and it was a way to take down the whole family at one time.
Correct.
And unfortunately, it got passed.
Do you feel it was more designed to take down the boss, the untouchable bosses of these situations, these families, because they let once they arrest one of the underlings, they offer him a plea that offer he can't refuse. Like, it's like, hey, I'll give you 2 years, or even you'll walk away scot-free. Just say this guy was in a room and what he was part of. Mm-hmm. Do you feel it was made to catch the untouchables?
Yeah, I definitely believe you are right about that.
Yeah.
For years, there was no boss that ever went away, you know. They don't talk on the phone. They don't say nothing in front of a lot of people. Like I told you the other day, Joker, it's a great piece of advice. And just use it, because they stood untouchable because they did things right. They went home 8 o'clock at night. They had their wife and their kids. They weren't out clubbing. They didn't fire guns in the street. You know, they just didn't do that. And for years, it didn't start till like 1984, whatever, the RICO.
Yeah.
And it's just a law that was made to lock up mafia people.
For the young kids at home that doesn't know what a loan shark is, this is an old term, but it's still a current term. Can you explain for the kids at home what a loan shark is?
A loan shark is a guy that lends money out at 30%. In other words, you borrow $1,000 and you pay $130 a week for 10 weeks. When you're done, you pay back $1,300. If you borrow $10,000, you pay back $13,000. If you borrow $100 million from the Teamsters, you have to pay them $130 million back to build your casino. So why not? You know, I mean, it's not today. Loan sharks are rare. They're pretty much, you know, bookies are rare now because you can go to the corner store and make a bet. You can go on your phone and make a bet. So why would you bet with a guy and hope you get paid? You know.
Right. And when someone doesn't pay, is it always normal for two guys to show up at your door just to say hello?
For the most part, they'll send one guy at first, you know, because look, you don't want to beat up a guy that owes you $13,000. All you want to do is get paid. So, you know, in hindsight, like nobody even wants it to come to that. But my thing is, you know, they make it easy for you. If you don't have the payment, you could give them a couple hundred this week. It's just that you're going to still owe 10 more payments.
Yeah.
It's just the interest, you know, goes up, and you know, guys get strangled by it over time.
Without question, I have to ask, you know, you mentioned something in our last interview to where we talked about the families, and we talked about Italians, well, we didn't talk about Sicilians, but Sicilians, and we talked about the African American, you know, coming in and dating African American women and things of that nature. Back then, 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, did it ever start easing up to allow other nationalities into the family? Whether working for, just being around, just being with part of the business, or was just like it was tight knit? Well,
they didn't invite him into the family 100%. What they did was they made money with everybody.
Okay.
So, you know, look, African Americans, they were playing maybe $10,000 a day in the street lottery, just 50 cents in dollar numbers. Mm. And, you know, we made money writing numbers. We made money booking sports. You know, Irish guys, they owned bars. They would take horses, numbers. You know, they made everybody make money, but you weren't going to be in the family, but you would be an associate. They would look out for you, you know, because if you're making money for everybody, you know. But it has like eased up now more than it was 40, 50 years ago, you know.
Right. And you speak on running numbers in the street lottery. Do you feel like the government was looking at that saying, we got to get a piece of this?
Of course. Why did they put the night number in the plate? Right. They know it's 1,000 to 1 to hit the number, right? But they only pay you 500 to 1. Right. Same thing I told you about roulette. You have no chance. Just think about that. If you bet $1 on a number, it's 1,000 to 1 that you hit it. Why do you only get paid 500?
Right.
And look at the money that the government makes now on scratch-offs, Powerball, anything addictive. If you could sell it, you're going to be a millionaire. Whether it's coffee, cigarettes, gambling, you have no choice but to make money. Anything you sell that's addictive, like alcohol or drugs, you're going to make money. Give me a truck full of cigarettes right now, I'll bring you $200,000.
Tobacco, is that big? Is tobacco bigger than alcohol?
Right now, it is, because a carton of cigarettes is $130 and a bottle of Jack Daniels is only $38.
Yeah.
And believe me, back then, they used to have trucks full of cigarettes. Now, believe me, you rob a truck full of cigarettes, they got GPS on it, you will go right to jail. There is no cigarette trucks no more driving around with 3,000 cartons, not at $100 a carton.
Jeez, you know, someone wanted us to ask you about what's your thoughts on the Iceman.
I think, I think his whole premise with the cyanide was great because he didn't have to use a gun. He would walk by people and spray like it looked like a little water bottle, and 3 hours later, they would die. I mean, Yaplinsky was he killed over 50 people, The Iceman, look, cyanide is just a way to kill somebody without having to fire a gun, and he was good at it. I'll give him that much, And look, he didn't get paid, bad money. He didn't do a hit unless he got $50,000.
Yeah.
There is no $10,000 hits with the Iceman. It ain't happening.
It's a probably guaranteed. If you want it done, you're gonna pay the fee.
Absolutely. If it's worth it for you, why wouldn't you pay $100,000 to kill a guy, and now you'll make $1 million?
There you go.
It's not good to feel that way, but you certainly can understand how and why people do it. People fall out of favor in time, and then it's just time for them to get removed. If they don't want to remove, like Tony Bananas, he said, I'll go to Florida. Okay, good. Because if not, you're going to get killed. If you're out of favor, you're out of the loop. You're out of the circle. Take retirement if they offer it, but they don't offer it to everybody. Trust me. No.
Are you, since you robbed the casinos, are you banned from casinos now?
No, actually, I'm not. Thank God. It's just it's crazy to think that they even hired me in Las Vegas, knowing that I robbed the Golden Nugget for a lot of money. And like I told you guys in the last interview, I actually had no intentions of robbing the casino in Vegas. I was there as a supervisor and an instructor making $300 a day. And then, like I told Joker, I was on the dice game, and the girl was robbing chips, from this high roller. Every time he shot, she would take 3 blacks from his, maybe 100,000 in the reel. Everybody's eyes would follow the dice. She would take 300. So when I went to call surveillance, I asked them, can you please turn the camera on game number 2? There's a girl robbing the rack. And the guy's like, well, we don't turn the cameras on unless the $1,000 chips are out. And like I told Joker last week, when I heard that, I went on break, and it took me 1 hour to devise a plan to rob the casino the next day. And that's a shame because, I wasted a really good career, but.
Yeah, maybe not.
I mean, look, they made $180 a day 40 years ago, and they still only make $180 a day. That doesn't make no sense because clothes went up, cars went up, cost of living went up. How could they make the same pay?
That's
not for nothing, but what would you do making $900 a week? You're going to come home with $640. You're never going to be able to take a vacation. You can't have a new car. You'll be lucky to make it on $2,500 a month.
Right, just eating and food and basic necessities.
Look, a supervisor should get $300 a day.
Facts.
Easy. He's watching $1 million.
Right.
Are you able to speak on which hotel this was? Which casino this was?
Oh, the Golden Nugget was my first in New Jersey.
The Golden Nugget, man.
And I ruined my life. I was a supervisor like this in a suit and tie at 19 years old. And again, not to justify it, but I had no intentions of robbing the Golden Nugget. It's they were having promotions in a month, and there was 12 people that were going to get promoted. And if you got promoted, you would get a new car for a $10,000 car, and your gas would be free. And I definitely thought that I was going to get promoted because I was one of the best dealers in Atlantic City, and they had me on the biggest game of the Golden Nugget every night. And when I went in to talk to the casino manager, and he said, look, I just want to let you know, we got to promote some African Americans and some females and some foreigners, so we're not going to be able to promote you. And I don't want to say I took 1 hour, but I went home at night and I was like, you know what? And I devised a plan how I could take money as a dealer. And I opted for the thing I told Joker, which was to rob, 15,000 in 30 seconds and then just do it like once a week because it doesn't risk your exposure. But again, if I would have got promoted, I probably wouldn't have robbed the Golden Nugget.
Right.
It was the greatest job in the world. I mean, I was making $38 an hour 43 years ago.
Right. Yeah, right. So how did you get caught?
I got caught 2 days later. I guess they had a feeling, but, they went back and looked at the tape. They really couldn't figure out what I was doing, but a guy would drop like $1,200 here, and I would go pick it up with like 15,000 in my hand, and then I would give him like 15,000 across. And then once the dice would roll, if a number came out, a 6 or 8, I would pay him 3,500 and then take down the 15,000 and hand that to them. So in 30 seconds, we make 18,000. And when I got home, I knew my 9,000 would be in my pocket because the guy that I did it with was a friend of my father's, and he was a great guy, and he would never tell, and nobody would ever know because he always bought in for 10,000, and he played on the dice game every night. But again, when you're 19 and you feel like you got passed over, and I did have some resentment because I wanted the car. I mean, I wasn't the average working teenager. A brand new car to me was a lot. Even though it was only $10,000, that was a lot of money in 1982. And, I don't regret robbing the Golden Nugget except for I broke my mother's heart because my mother and father were so proud of me to go there and become a supervisor, get promoted, and just deal 2 nights a week and be a supervisor 3 nights a week. They were devastated when I came home. My father wouldn't even touch any of the money. I came home with about $84,000 after all the smoke cleared. They wouldn't take a penny from me. I had to give my money to my uncle to give to them to even fix the house. Like they wanted nothing to do with it. And I always felt sorry for that. I didn't feel sorry for me because I paid a $5,500 fine and 3 years probation. I'd like to go back and take another $180,000 to pay back $5,500, but that wasn't happening. And like I said, when I went to Vegas and went to go get my sheriff's card, they gave it to me in like 2 hours.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. I got a job in like 1 day. And then, the rest is history, like you guys have. In 1993, 10 years later, I robbed Vegas World. And they couldn't lock me up because I had no chips. Well, they didn't know what the hell happened. So, they just basically fired me. And I was okay with that. I only got maybe 60 or 70,000 out of them, but it was a small Cankersall casino at the time. It's now the Stratosphere Tower. But I immediately went the next day and got a job at the Prima Donna on the state line of California in Vegas. And 2 months later, I robbed them for $120,000, but they actually got me locked up, you know, and I was told to leave the state, pay the fine of $6,000, pay my lawyer, and I gladly left with a nice sum of money. And the crazy part is I was packing up to move back to Philly, and I get a call from a headhunter. And he's like, Angelo, we got your name. We just opened the casino in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We'd like to give you $7,500 to relocate. Is it possible you can train our dealers and work on the riverboat? And I'm like, hell yeah. You know, I told my brother, I said, look, I'll be there tomorrow. I went to the airport in the morning and I told my brother, look, you drive the car down. I'll give you $1,000 when you get there. And I'll buy you plane tickets to go back, because I wasn't driving to Louisiana. But I flew there, and when I got to Lake Charles, let's just say it wasn't what I expected. On the map back then, it was this close to New Orleans. And I'm thinking, man, I could go to New Orleans on my days off, hang out at the French Quarter. When I got there, I seen the sign, New Orleans, 240 miles. I was like, well, so much for that. You know, and then, you know, I was supposed to get like a corporate suite because Merv Griffin owned this riverboat. And I went to this place where they told me to check in, you know, and they're like, oh, you're Angelo from the Players Casino? I'm like, yeah. So they gave me this room, and I went into the room and I'm looking, and it's not a player's suite. And I got my drink and I put it on the coffee table, and the coffee table collapsed. And I was like, okay, this furniture isn't really furniture. I'm thinking to myself, I got to sit on a couch and it sounded weak. So I just got it on the phone. I'm like, hey, this is Angelo. I said, I'm supposed to be in a player suite for the River Casino. They're like, yeah, what room you in? I'm like, yeah, 218. She goes, oh, that's it. I'm like, this is no suite, you know. And then I wanted to go to a mall to buy furniture, and there was no mall. And I had to go over to Beaumont, Texas to find a mall to buy furniture. There was no mall in Lake Charles. They just got a Taco Bell. Their big thing was Sizzler at the time. And the people were really, I mean, the people were nice. There just were no Italians here. And it was, you know, all they wanted to do was give me crawfish and gumbo. The people were like, come on over, Angelo, you know. All they want to do is cook for it. They're so friendly, you know. The people are really great, you know. It's just that it was hot, it was stifling, and it was like the middle of nowhere. It was like the witness protection program, basically.
So I would like to ask you a little bit more stuff about the casino.
Go ahead.
Just okay. So you're at the blackjack table, right?
Okay.
And you put your money down, and then someone has to come over there, and they say 100 or 200. Why are they screaming your money out?
Well, they have to. What happens is on a blackjack table, a supervisor will have 4 tables, 2 there and 2 there. So if they're watching this game, when they hear 300, they know what's going into the box, so they could adjust the count. Now, a dice supervisor, he only gets 1 table on each side. And if you learn how to use the mirrors, you can watch this game, peek at the mirror. See that mirrors on the crap table? You can see what's going on in the other game. They could never give you 4 crap tables. You couldn't watch 4 crap games. You can watch 4 blackjack games too, if you're sharp, you know. Okay. And I was sharp. My mathematics are unbelievable. Like, you know, I am basically a mathematics genius, you know. Right. I could tell you the percentage of anything in 2 seconds, like.
Oh, okay. I need to go to the casino with you. What is the black machine that's doing something with the cards at the end?
That's a shuffler in the poker machine.
Okay.
They made that so they could play more hands because they get $4 a hand every minute of every hour of every day.
So it's just
they didn't want to wait for the dealer to shuffle the cards.
Oh, so
they can put a deck in. They take a deck out right away.
So that you don't need to be scared of that machine.
No, don't be scared of nothing. Like I tell you, just play poker. Leave the other games alone. Because like I explained to you, Poker, it's me against him, you, Joker, and him. In the roulette wheel, you're betting against the casino. On the blackjack table, I told you, you're going to lose 54 out of 100 hands because of everything stacked against you. Your cards are exposed, one of their cards are covered. You got to play your hand first. They play theirs second. If you go over and the dealer goes over, you still lose your $100. Is it fair? No, but that's the rules, you know.
But what's it called? A baccarat. You said that's
the most even game.
most even.
That's why there's only one table in the casino.
Right. So if you were going in the casino and there was no poker, what are you playing?
Nothing, but if I were to play, I would probably play blackjack, but it's you have to know there's so many people that got so many formulas that you could disagree with just about anybody. But I think the biggest mistake people make is when they bet $200 and they win and they stack it up and bet 400, you know, and then they lose. Well, I don't think that's really smart because the guy I learned from said, look, if you bet $200 and you win, if you bet $100 next hand and you lose, you won one hand, you lost one hand, but you made $100.
Right.
So a lot of people have a flawed concept, but don't get me wrong, if you bet 200 and you stack it up, you could get blackjack, and now you got $1,000
Right.
instead of 300.
Right.
But again, there's card counters, which is why they now deal 6 decks. They used to just have 1 deck. But a guy like me, no, I'll be able to, you can count cards and you know how many 9s to the kings are out. And when the number's in your favor and all the face cards are left, you don't bet $100, now you bet $1,000 because all the good hands are coming out.
Right.
And that's how they catch the card counters. In the movie Casino, you'll see the guy had an electronic thing there. He was peeking at the whole card on the game behind him. See, I tell you that, right?
Right.
They look for a weak dealer and they expose him. There's guys that do it. They just make $300 a day. They pass post the guy. He looks up. He's like, I didn't see that. They call a supervisor. The 300's right there. You have to pay him. He gets it. He just goes home. I know a guy been doing it for 30 years. 30 years. He just makes 200 a day. He goes in. He has green chips, $25 chip. He bets $25. If he wins, he takes it down. If he loses, he bets 50. If he loses that, he bets 100. If he loses that, he bets 400. If he wins, he puts the $25 on the side and he bets 25 again. He tries to pick up 8 $25 chips. He gets his 200 and he leaves. The bad side to that is if he ever loses 10 hands in a row, he loses about $25,000. But I don't think, the odds, could it happen? Yeah, he's lost 10 hands in a row a few times, But look, he makes, $1,400 a week in cash. He ain't never had to work, So he's doing something right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewind that after this is over, right? Just give us some game. So, is there any what's the word I'm looking for? Advice that you can give to a person that is going to the casino?
Yeah, if you're going to play something, know what it is you're playing, know what the odds are. Try to swing the odds in your favor, because anything you do, it's just like anything in life. If you want to do it, research it, find out the best way to do it. Learn to count cards, know what the odds are like most people don't know that, on the roulette table, there's 38 numbers. They just see 36. They forget the 2 green numbers, 0 and 00. But why did they create the 0 and 00? Why? To stop people from betting 2,000 on black and 2,000 on red. And then one of them gets paid every hand and they look like high rollers, right? They're betting 2,000 a hand, but they're not. They're just using you for a comp. So you give them free food and beverage. You give them a room for the whole summer, but they're not really gambling. So what the two green numbers do, say you bet 2,000 on red, Joker bets 2,000 on black, 00 comes out. It's green. You both lose.
Yeah. So should I get a player's card?
Absolutely. Get a player's card and use it every time you buy in. That's how they rate your play. If you bet $50 a hand, that'll be your rating. If you bet $100 a hand, that'll be your rating. Just $50 and $100 will get you free rooms, comps, anything you want. You'll eat every day for nothing in a buffet, without a doubt. You'll also go to nice restaurants, you know. There's a lot of things in the casino business that are going to take you a long time to understand, but you know, you can always call me and I'll always give you the answer when it comes to casinos.
That's great.
Yeah. No, we about to run it up. We about to run it up. All right. Well, the casino business is crazy, but I got to ask you about the drug business. The question is, did you ever partake your hand in that, and were you ever involved in a $30 million methamphetamine ring? Is there some truth to that?
Unfortunately, I was part of it, and you know, as you guys know, like I did get arrested for that. But if I told you the truth, people would think, you know, it's a joke. But my own involvement in there was about $800, and I only made $100. You know, I sold an informant, you know, an ounce of meth for $800, but I bought it for $700. But unfortunately, she locked up 20 people, and I got locked up with them. And you know, naturally, I just pleaded guilty and got some house arrest. You know,
$30 million sting, and you're in it for $100. You're in it for $100.
and $800 yeah.
Jeez Louise.
A lot of people. I mean, Philly was the methamphetamine capital of the world. I mean, you could get pounds of methamphetamine on 10 different corners in Philly at the time.
Did you get any time house arrest, or were you?
I got 2 years house arrest for that.
Okay. Did you ever have to serve time?
I did.
What was the cause behind you having to actually serve time, if you don't mind us asking?
It was a couple girls that I knew, and I actually, you know, was trying to invite them back to my place, you know, and I wanted to mess around with both of them, you know.
Hey,
and unfortunately, you know, the one girl who was a very close friend, I didn't know, like, she became an informant, and you know, the rest is like crazy, because when I went to court, you know, I had the judge in my back pocket, but it was afterwards. Like, I was sentenced to go away, like I told you, Joke, for 5 years and 30 days. And when I went to my friend and said, look, you know, I got sentenced yesterday. I'm going to have to go away, like, you know, in 30 days. You know, you think I could get like that $12,000 that you owe me, you know? So my wife, no, don't have to worry, nothing like that. And he's like, you're going away. He's like, what happened? And I told him, and he's like, well, what's the judge's name? And I tell him the judge's name. And he's like, well, you're not going to jail. And I'm like, I'm going. I said, the judge gave me 30 days to straighten out my affairs at the barbershop. And to make a long story short, for $25,000, I went into court 30 days later, and the judge reduced the sentence to 2 years house arrest and 8 years special probation. And let's just say the district attorney was not happy. They were screaming. They didn't know what had happened, you know, but it was so, I mean, in Philly, between the judges and the politicians, there's always somebody you go to, like.
So is it money that moves him, or is it something personal? Like, you get into...
You got to think it's the money, because, I mean, not for nothing. What is $25,000 to save 5 years of your life? I would have given them 100 at the time.
Yeah.
You know, when they asked for 25, I literally brought it to them in 2 hours. I went home. I went to Atlantic City. I got my money, and I drove back to Philly. And as soon as I gave the guy the money, He went right into the restaurant and met the judge, and I know he got half of it, but I don't care. He's entitled to $12,500.
The job is done.
Yeah. And look, they had it covered so bad that they made me use a flunky lawyer. I can't mention his name even though he has dementia, but the judge is dead, so I don't care. You know, he can't come back to life, but they made me use a lawyer. I knew more than my lawyer knew, but they won't let me hire any big Italian attorneys because they didn't want it to get the attention of to look like a mob thing or Italian thing. Yeah. So I got a Jewish bald-headed lawyer who was basically an idiot. And he was perfect because nobody could think that he would do anything wrong. And the judge just took care of it.
What are your thoughts about the judge that tried to bury Meek Mill? When you see judges that actually come to my chambers, hey man, rap me a song, get on my son's mixtape, or whatever. The judge that go beyond.
Yeah, a lot of people are starstruck. Look, I see with Jaguar all the time. I mean, me, I'm not starstruck. Like I said, Donald Trump was my neighbor for years. I have no problem like speaking publicly to thousands of people. I'm okay with it, but I don't care if an actor is over there. And especially, like, I think LA is pretty phony. That's why I really don't want to go there. Everybody just seems to have their own agenda,
Very
there's
true.
no real people there, I don't think.
Hey, I won't argue that. The time you did serve, what did you do with your time? Were you we just had Baba Shaka here. He was saying there was more people on the basketball court than the law library at times in his community, the black community.
Well, do you remember what I told you on our last interview? I spent every Saturday and Sunday in the law library just helping people. Not only that, I was trying to help myself too, because my sentence was illegal. But by the time I would have got to court, I would have been home. But, what he said is pretty sad because they should have been thinking about the law library more than the basketball court or the weights. But you can tell that interview was real because they don't know. People can't go to the law library. Maybe they're afraid people know they can't read or, But like I said, me and another guy, we were on the law library list every Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. And we helped a lot of people get home. And it's a shame because, like I say, 30% of the people have illegal sentences, but they don't know it. They force you to plead guilty by threatening to give you 5 to 10 years. So you take 2 years. You know what I mean? 3 years.
Exactly. Outside of the law library, what did you do, John? 5 years is a time. How did you spend your time outside of that?
I went to college at Westmoreland Community College. I learned about business management and advertising.
Yeah.
And I used my time to teach character development. And I was able to become like a trustee. I am probably the only ex-felon that's allowed to go back into state prison in Pennsylvania. I actually can go visit my friends who do life in prison. And they don't let prisoners back in prison because of escape attempts. They would be afraid that people would bring it in. But because I taught character development for 2 years, and in my 5 years I was away, I don't have one write-up. I even played Santa Claus for 3 years in the visiting room. And, I used to walk around prison. I was never locked in my cell, never,
So what are your thoughts on El Chapo? He is, his escape attempts. And
I think El Chapo is probably the greatest drug trafficker ever. Who has a 30-year run as a drug trafficker?
30-year run?
Nobody. He was a billionaire. And just look, to think of him building them tunnels to not have to go through the border.
Yeah.
You know how,
changed the game.
Every kilo went underground.
It changed the game.
Again, you won't see anybody have a 30-year run as a drug trafficker. Yeah. Their term life is 5 to 10 years tops. And Chapo was, 30 years. Like I said, look what the government did to bring him down. They put him in Forbes magazine as what 7th richest person in the world.
That's how you got to get him.
The FBI he was going to get locked up. There was nobody that was going to stop the United States from getting him. Nobody.
That's how you get them. So I have to ask. We do this. We see these horrible things in prison. We just had another guy who just came and talked about his violation that happened to him in prison. To where every man gets tested. So I gotta ask you, Ange, are you metrosexual? And I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
go ahead.
When a girl told me that, I was like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, I was thinking because, one of the girls I was seeing was bisexual, that they were thinking, that I might like men. So I didn't know what it was. And she's like, no. Like, it's just that you get manicures and you get pedicures and your shoes have to match your shirt, and you always got cologne on. You take 2 showers a day. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's normal. I'm like, but, metrosexual is actually like a compliment. It's just a guy that takes care of himself, every day. You take a couple of showers, you change your clothes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a manicure and a pedicure if you're going to go to the beach all summer.
Yeah,
a lot of people just, they, like I said, I didn't even know what it meant when the girl told me. And she's like, no, like I'm giving you a compliment. And then I looked it up, like,
There you go, metrosexual.
Yeah, right.
Let me ask, who is the most influential person or people in your life? You got to have some motivation to kind of get through this thing.
Well, other than, my mother and father, I would have to say my uncle was probably the most influential person in my life. I had a great uncle, Butchie, and another great uncle, Anthony. And they were just, they were my mother's brothers, but they were there for me every step of the way. And my dad passed away when I was, just 30. He's been dead 30 years, but my uncle, he just took the place of my father. And then my father-in-law took, I'm blessed. Like, I have great in-laws. My wife's mother and my mother were best friends. So, I mean, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are 2 of the greatest people you could ever meet in life. I divorced their sister 31 years ago, and they still treat me like family. I spend Christmas Eve at their house. I was able to bring my girlfriend to my ex-wife's house on Christmas Eve.
Amazing.
Yeah, well, you just get along, for your children. My daughter was more important than anything.
There you go.
So her mother was the most important person. Even though I was divorced, she was my best friend, my wife, or my ex-wife, whatever you want to call her. But she was the mother of my child, and she was the grandmother of my grandchildren.
She was with you during these casino heists?
That was before I got married.
Okay, just making sure.
But that's okay.
Sure.
She enjoyed most of the money. She was probably one of the most beautiful girls in South Philly. Everybody wanted her, but I got her, man.
Oh, man, there you go, man. There you go. So let me ask, everyone wants to know, why Jaguar Wright? What's the play? What's the business behind it? What do you want to do with Jaguar? What is the goal to outside of the friendship y'all initially have? Now that Jag has introduced you as her manager, what is the goal for Jaguar Wright's career and how you see it happen?
Well, Jaguar's career is about to take off. I mean, she has a ton of followers, but what's really important to Jaguar is this cruelty-free industry. And we're working on a 1-800 number. We're trying to get 1-800-CRUELTY, means it's 7 letters, but it might be, you never know if it's taken or not.
Right.
So, but Jaguar, she's just like I said, she's a real person, and what she says is the truth, And if I didn't see her on the phone with Jay-Z and I didn't see Jay-Z call her back, I would say I might not have believed her. But, you know, when you hear her saying Sean this and Sean that, like I said, I thought she, you know, her boyfriend or her husband was mad she was getting a tattoo, but she was just talking to him on the phone. Okay. And I had a pair of Sean Carter's on my sneaker shelf, and I didn't even know it was Jay-Z sneakers. Like, I didn't know who Sean Carter was. Like,
that's real. So we are, I think right now it's middle of June. We're literally in the halfway through mark of 2024. What does the second half for you look like as far as the business, whether gambling, whether Jaguar, whether just moving around, seeing the sights? How do you see the next half of this year being orchestrated?
Well, when I see things for Jaguar turning in a totally different direction, and she is a very hot commodity right now. And I think in the next 6 months, there's a chance that Jaguar could easily make 6 figures. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
And eventually, you know, as long as she could carry the run, she doesn't have to lie. She doesn't even really have to speak out much anymore. There's so many people that are speaking out, but like, I'm sorry, but she's more worried about this cruelty-free industry than she is about money. And that's just who Jaguar is. But she's going to get her money. That's for sure. I'm going to make sure she gets it because that's my job. And actually, tomorrow's a pretty big day for Jaguar. And it's going to be a pretty good day for you guys, too, because I think these are going to be in the Jaguar Wright business.
Oh, there you go. Now, we're going to talk about it. Quick, I have to ask, you know, you may know about this or not, but do you feel the mafia was involved? There was rumors that Sam Cooke, the legendary African-American singer Sam Cooke, you know, for those who don't know, that his passing could have been mafia related. What are your thoughts on that?
I have no idea. Never heard anything about Sam Cooke other than he was a great singer, you know.
He was a great singer.
He was adored by a lot of people. But I never heard the mafia thing with him, though.
Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on John and Joey Stanford's the hit that they try to take out on the freeway in Philly? Things normally don't spill into broad daylight like that, and that's kind of the height of the Philly war, to where you got hits being, you know, on the freeway. Even in Dallas, we have Mo 3, to where, you know, it doesn't normally get to that level until it gets to that level.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on John and Joey's situation?
I think that it was almost necessary because, you know, you got to remember at that time, all my father's friends were older men. And then, you know, Joey's whole crew of Young Turks, they were called at the time. I mean, there was probably only 15 of them. And it was probably maybe 15 against 60. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but the young guys won. I mean, Joey beat them. They were outnumbered 3-1, but you got to give them credit. They won. Stanford went to jail, you know, but they're revered. They love them in South Philly. Believe me when I tell you, they love all our guys.
Yeah.
They do.
Is it shamed upon when you do like a life sentence for racketeering? Like for racketeering to be the case that gets you, is that like, hey, at least it's that? I mean,
yeah, the RICO is the worst. Racketeering, you're not going to get life on it, you know. But it all depends on your involvement. You know what I mean? But the RICO it's a horrible. You can't beat it. It's impossible.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Man, Angela, you know, this is crazy because we have these conversations again. Dallas doesn't have, I believe, a history of, let's just say, quote unquote, mob ties. Philly, for those in this region that haven't been to Philly, that haven't been to Jersey, haven't been to New York, the presence is heavy. And when I say it's heavy as in like not crime, but the sense of family, the sense of a connection. Do you feel the world in a non-crime situation would be a better place if the world was ran like the mob?
Yeah, I think things would be structured better. I think our neighborhoods would be better. I think that drugs will eventually get pushed out of the city to, the northern part of Philly, just like the northern part of Vegas, like North Vegas is where all the drugs are,
Exactly.
Like I said, when we grew up, all the drugs, the hard drugs were up in North Philly. You couldn't, it just was, like I said, there was no heroin in our neighborhood, just wasn't, I can't even imagine, what would happen if anybody would even try to sell it. But yeah, I mean, look, if you could get structured like they are and put all the priorities first and family, your wife, your children, then it just becomes, once you start doing the right thing every day, you just always do the right thing. Like for me, there's never a choice. It's either you do the right thing or you go. If they're going to allow you to make, $5,000 a week, well, you're going to give them their $1,000 every week because they're letting you earn. Nobody could feel like cheated when they take a piece of you. You can't take it personal. Right. They're allowing you to make $5,000. They're only asking you for their end, which is more than fair, I think. I mean, if you made me make $5,000 a week, Joker, I would gladly give you $1,000 of it.
I'm telling you, come on, let's make it make sense. Make it make sense.
There's plenty of money for everybody, you know that.
There you go, man. Well, I have to say, man, again, we're just running this right back. We had an outpour of love that came once we dropped your interview and kind of introduced the world to Angelo. And we're only happy to have you right back, clean cut, come in with the time. So I definitely appreciate you for taking us serious enough to say, hey, I respect you guys to, come back and give you guys a little more of a more personal side of your story and speaking on your family, your wife, kids, and things of that nature.
I just got one more question about the casino. What is that when they're doing the slot machines and they keep opening the slot machine when you pass? I'm like, why do they keep opening?
They don't open it too much now. They used to have to open it before to check the hopper, which was the thing that would hold all the silver dollars. Right. And when the hopper became full, they would kick out to you. Like, remember I told you that every $100 bill, they paid back 90. Yeah. They only try to make $10. But now, with all the cash and tickets, there is no more coins coming out.
Right.
So they don't have to go in there. But they go in there because people in the slot department were stealing. My ex-partner got fired from Trump Plaza because he let the hoppers go off. And people were hitting jackpots, but he was getting after money. $10,000 jackpot every week, he would get $5,000. He would set the hopper up, but he eventually got caught, Right. But, it's just where there's money, there's larceny. People are always going to find a way to rob the casinos, to rob the banks, to get your credit score. Whatever you got to do to manipulate the thing, you find a way to do it. There's nothing that's impossible, believe me. And the criminal mind doesn't rest. When you're a criminal, you're always thinking of ways to make money. There's doctors. I've seen a crooked doctor just give me 10 prescriptions in 10 different names.
Right.
And you just go to the pharmacy, you give the guy $2,000, and he cashes 10 scripts for you. And your brother's name, your daughter's name, your sister's name, your mother's name. And you walk out here and you got 1,200 Percocets.
Last thing, if I am playing the slot machine, right?
You're destined to lose your money, but go ahead.
Right, yeah.
I know you love the casino.
Yeah. So I'm playing the slot machine, right? Is it better for me to bet high on the slot machine? $5, $25 a spin? What should I do?
You should bet a penny a spin. Look, like I told you, you're playing against a computer chip now. First of all, you know one thing, and because you have you know my background. You cannot beat the casino. But look, in all fairness to you, if you went with your wife and you stuck $200 in a slot machine, you could win $80,000 tonight. The jackpot could go off. But January to January, bro, if you went every day, you'd lose $1,400 a week. So do you really want to lose $70,000 to try to hit $80,000 one time? No.
Right.
It's just a bad look. Why do you think there's 2,000 slot machines in the casino and only one baccarat table?
Right. It's just
They make a ton of money. I told you, the sounds, the dinging going off, that's all addictive. You'll never see the outside. You'll never see a clock. If you look at the rugs, they're built to hurt your eyes so you don't look down. The sounds of the slot machine, the blinking of the lights, it's all meant to keep you in there.
right.
Did you ever see Molly's Game, the movie? They even have special candles. She lit candles that make people bet more money.
Right. It's just like my partners will call me like, man, I just hit 40,000. Or I hit 5,000. And you see him go live on Instagram and be like, dang, I can hit 40,000.
Look, I had a partner in the tattoo parlor I had.
Right.
He was a 25% partner. I mean, he was making $1,000 a week. We were making $4,000. The shop did about $1,000 a day, maybe more. Do $8,000 a week. Somebody does a tattoo for $400, you get $2, and the artist gets $2. He lost his 25% of the tattoo parlor, which at $1,000 a week, it's worth, $52,000 you're getting for nothing. He only gave me $25,000, He lost my money. I was in Puerto Rico on vacation, and he collected all the money from the tattoo parlor. And I was expecting to come home and get my $10,000. I get home, and he doesn't have my money. He said he lost it in the casino. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? He's like, well, I'm going to call my father. I'm like, look, why don't you just walk away? I said, you're just wasting our money. And he's like, if I walk away, do I have to pay you? I'm like, no. I mean, I can't be partners with you anymore. Like, you blew all the money in the casino. Like, how am I going to trust you again? He really was a great guy. He stuck, imagine sticking $10,000 into one machine in a 24-hour period.
It's crazy.
It's so addictive. It's a shame because the guy's really smart, Look, his first investment, he got a successful business. That very rarely happens. The first business you get in your life, you probably learn and bump your head. He gave me $25,000 and he made $1,000 a week. I said, you didn't embrace the fact that you were 38, you invested in a business and it blew up. You gambled all your money away. And I don't gamble. And business is business. I'm sorry, but
It's crazy.
you're no longer a partner.
It really plays on your hopes and dreams, like the human psyche of the win versus it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's addictive. Believe me, it's just as bad as drugs gambling.
Oh man, no, I've seen.
I don't gamble. So, like I said, if you call playing poker gambling, I could argue with you, but I'll give you that because that's not worth the argument. If you can't understand that poker is a sport, it's not against the casino, then what is the sense of me really talking to you?
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Angelo, man, we definitely appreciate it, man. Again, for you to come back a second go round, this ain't going to be the last time. We got some business to talk after this and things of that nature. With that being said, you're back on the blue couch, and we have to say it, man, Angelo, Ange. They call your nickname is Chet, short for Cheddar. Like, where did you get that nickname from?
It actually, me and my friend, when you go in a swimming pool and you're out in the sun, you see how you get hungry, Well, in Philly, we didn't have a swimming pool or money, so we used to turn the fire hydrant on, go onto the fire hydrant, and there was a corner store there, and we would go in every day and either get an Italian hoagie or a turkey and cheese hoagie or a ham hoagie, And we went into the store, we were starving, we were in the sun, under the water all day. And he's like, let's get something different. And I'm like, what do you want to get, you know? And he picks up like a jar of pickles, you know. I'm like, what am I going to get, you know? I'll eat the pickles, so I just grabbed a block of cheddar cheese, you know. And we went walking into the basketball courts right on, the guys were playing full court, the older guys.
Yeah.
And they're like, look at these two kids. And we just walked right across the thing. They were going to run us over. We didn't even blink. We went to the bench, and they're like, look at these two kids. They're like, what do you guys got? And he had an open jar of pickles and a piece of cheddar cheese. And they're like, well, now that's your nickname.
Yeah.
And, you know, they cut it from cheddar cheese to cheddar to Chet. But my friend, God rest his soul, Pickles, his nickname stuck forever. Weenie Dog, Donnie Dudes, Gary Rat, Jolly Rat, in a good way.
Okay,
That was their name. But everybody has a nickname in South Philly, you know.
All right.
Mine is, you know, most people now call me Angelo because of they don't know me for my nickname, you know, which is good. But even my mother called me Chet. It's crazy.
There you go. You got Joker, Rook, and OD over here. So these are superhero names. All right. Well, there you go, man. You got it, man. Ange, again, thank you. We got to say it. You're on the blue couch, and we salute for all the work you put in all this casino game. We're about to go put it to use this weekend. Let's go. And you are a real life street star. Let's go.
Shout out Reallyfe Street Stars, nigga. Move. Hey.